Might know what you're gonna find along the way, but in any event, it is just about time for us to fire up the search engine and hit the road to discovery. It's AJ ZiZi TIL.
Aha! Oh no!
You love our cocky laughs today. I love it.
Aha! I got plenty of those. Oh man! All right.
Okay. So this week we were looking at a video on artificial flavors and synthetic foods, which I always found really interesting. Like, how does this particular combination of chemicals come together to taste exactly like, strawberry or whatever?
Yeah, we found out the answer was by accident. A lot of these compounds just kind of happened. Something, exploded, is melting the walls a little bit, but it really smells like vanilla in here, so somebody bottled it.
Yeah, it is really weird. Like, I'm not a picky eater or anything, but...
You're not.
That's true.
At
but
all.
If you look at the ingredient list for some of this stuff and your eyes pop out of your head a little bit. Extracts from plants you typically avoid, parts from animals you would never eat.
Speaking of gelatin, I only found out in my adult life that gelatin was made up from ground up bones and such. I went through a vegan phase and there were so many candies off limits.
Yeah, gelatin dessert has always been a little weird to me, and now that
Gelatin dessert.
Gelatin dessert has all all know what I'm talking about, but it has always been a little weird to me, right? It's weird. So now that I understand it a little bit more, I was always right to feel that way ever since I was a little kid. If you're not eating whale bones, you're eating some other culinary concoction, and it's all, well, in large part, courtesy of one William A. Mitchell.
This guy. Apparently, this single individual is responsible for some of the junkiest food ever to stock a shelf. Cool Whip, Tang, Pop Rocks.
He also made some kind of weird uncoffee, which caught on so well that you've definitely heard of the copa.
I think you said it right. I'm not sure. I haven't. I don't want it.
Didn't he also do some kind of powdered egg thing during the Second World War?
Again, not interested. Pop Rocks were fun at least. Like, I always felt like super cool and tough with candy explosions going off in my mouth. Tactile fireworks. But it was definitely something I could only get when I was with a friend's parents. It's very dangerous.
Hey man, I like Pop Rocks too. What's not to like for an 8-year-old? Even one my age.
Hey.
I have definitely eaten Pop Rocks in the last couple of years, but what's weird about it is how it came to be. Apparently they were trying to create some kind of instant carbonated beverage.
First off, what? The world was begging for that? I can't tell you how many times I thought to myself, you know what, this soda just takes way too long. But yeah, I don't know. I've always had a thing for edible pyrotechnics. Did anyone else ever do that thing where you bite on a wintergreen life preserver in a dark room and it sparks? We weren't allowed to have a lot of fun growing up, so that was always exciting for me.
I can see that.
Yeah, I only had Pop Rocks a few times, but I've never had Tang. I don't know if I'm missing anything.
I mean, Tang at least had a valid application, I guess.
Yeah.
Every little space cadet knows that Tang was the official drink of the astronauts. And back before I fully understood that humanity went all the way to the moon with a segregated space program, I was absolutely obsessed with NASA.
Oh, you mean some people could go to the moon and others couldn't even go to the lunch counter?
It was a different time. Now some people can go to space for fun, and others starve in the street.
Oh!
It turns out there's no real limit to how far our species can go with technology, even if the implementation is fundamentally flawed.
Well, I was never all that into astronauts. We have to fix this planet first. But so I never saw the appeal of Tang. I don't get it. Why do I want to drink powdered electrolyte thirst quencher liquid or whatever? I'm not on a space station. We have orange trees here on Earth. Free ones even. Can you imagine? No.
No.
Man.
That's great. You know what? I can see how someone could like or not like Tang. What I can't see how people actually enjoy is Cool Whip.
Cool Whip. Who was clamoring for fake whipped cream again?
Yeah, that was always my problem with it. It was we already have something like this and it's better. No thanks.
Then the commercials show people dipping fruits and stuff in it. Like, that's disrespectful to fruit, okay? Then you always see these recipes showing gelatin dessert and cream-style dessert topping together. Like, there is no recognizable food in there. Where's my human food?
Yeah, like we mentioned before, these three food-style products and many more came from the mind and mistakes of one man, Bill Mitchell. And he has quite the interesting story, doesn't he? That dude was basically a mad food scientist.
Yeah, he had a bit of a rough start. One of his first jobs in the field was actually working at a food science lab of a major producer, and he ended up with second and third degree burns over most of his body while mixing together anything in reach.
Yeah, he received these grievous injuries in a massive explosion of prototype pop rocks.
Oh, man.
Which isn't true at all, but you know that if you had been listening. Why aren't you listening?
Hey, why aren't you listening? He definitely did burn himself in some kind of food fire, but the real story isn't as amusing.
Oh.
And yeah, so just your standard everyday lack of safety protocols.
Hey, classic mad scientist stuff.
Yeah, but still, he was apparently still good enough at his job to eventually land a position with an even bigger conglomerate. You know, the one that makes stuff like Pop Rocks, Cool Whip, and Tang.
It's wild how much of our food supply is controlled by the same handful of companies, right? Read the back of a package sometime. There are legit less than, 10 major food companies that stock most of a typical supermarket? Really more like 5.
Yeah, I wish we didn't have to actually use these brand names in conversation. But if we didn't, we'd have to say stuff like suspended gas sugar stones and cream type whipped topping every time we referred to the products, and nobody would know what we were talking about.
I don't know, that might be funny. Let's try it out.
Sure. I think we should.
Why not?
But back to Bill Mitchell and his crimes against food. Oh, man. Apparently, we're not the only ones who don't really care for cream-style whipped topping. That stuff actually earned him the enmity of Martha Stewart.
Convicted federal offender Martha Stewart had beef with the food scientist? That's a fun sentence.
It is. Apparently, Martha Stewart despises cream-style whipped dessert topping. She once publicly rejected it when served to her on a show. I respect her, standing by her beliefs.
Yeah, you know what? Seriously here, a lot of this stuff is funny, but it's also pretty dark if you take the time to think about it.
Oh, what? This guy was hired by a multi-million-dollar corporation to mix just stuff together and see if what comes out is even vaguely edible. Then they have meeting after meeting to figure out how they can best trick children into eating it. Like, why go after the kids? That's sick.
Well, I mean, it's kind of the same thing as when cigarette companies were allowed to market to kids, or anybody really. They tried to make cigarettes appealing to that demographic because they know once you get a kid hooked on something, you will have a customer for life. How else do you explain Disney adults?
Yeah, Disney adults are super weird. Walt Disney was an anti-Semitic plagiarist, you know?
He was.
Mm-hmm.
He was an anti-Semitic plagiarist.
Yeah.
100% would have gotten canceled if he was still around to talk. He is very lucky to have died first.
His Twitter feed?
Oh, man. But you know what? We're getting off topic.
Yeah, but not really. We're still talking about passively poisoning people. I will never forget growing up, a man appeared outside our church with candy cigarettes and was holding them out for my sister and I to take, and I thought I was going straight to hell.
Well, isn't that?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not here to trash junk food as a whole. Half the time we're eating instant ramen, which is probably one molecule off from the styrofoam containers it comes in.
The molecules on top are kind of tasty, but we would eat a lot less of it if we could afford to eat better food more consistently.
Yeah.
So if you want to help ensure we eat less plastic noodles, you can head over to patreon.com/AJ ZiZi CoWork Life and show us a little love. It really does go a super long way here.
Yes, it does. And speaking of going a long way, synthetic foodstuffs as a whole have come a long way since what I imagined to be the original fake food, margarine.
Buh.
Correct response. It is just awful, isn't it?
It is an abomination. I don't see how it's still around.
It has been around for a long time now. A couple hundred years ago in France, Emperor Napoleon, one of the other ones, was seeking out a cheap butter substitute that he could foist on soldiers, peasants, and other livestock.
Oh, man. Oh, because only wealth hoarders deserve nice things.
Right you are, Z. And so, other Napoleon decreed a nationwide contest for the best butter replacement, which was won by a guy who got the idea to